Hello, everyone. Welcome to Latter-day Struggles, your podcast to learn more about how to manage and grow up as members of or around the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. It is so very good to be with you guys here today. And I am actually here for a little bit of a bonus episode. And I have a story, a reason why I am doing this. I am interrupting our otherwise scheduled program. Yes, we are talking about the For the Strength of the Youth pamphlet. I did not know that the entire church talked about the For the Strength of the Youth pamphlet today in a fifth Sunday. Well, at least that's the word on the street. I was, of course, in primary, thick into the dress. Well, I guess we were dressed, but it was not a dress rehearsal because there is no costumes. But we were getting ready for the primary program in my ward. So I was unaware of this development. But my hope is that those of you who hear this podcast and are making sense of bigger issues, are seeing with new eyes, I'm hoping that you'll share this podcast with those around you, especially because this conversation is obviously being had church-wide. And I think my hope is that we can broaden and deepen our understanding of all that is good and improving in the manual, and also all of the various kind of, things that we still need to work on. And that's okay. We're all allowed to be a work in process, right? Individuals and institutions alike. So I am here actually today for a separate reason, and that's why I am actually dropping this between the regularly scheduled programs, because I am wanting to answer some questions from some of you. I'm overwhelmed with and grateful for all of the emails and all of the messages I am getting about the groups that I'm running. And what I kind of decided to do is, rather than answering I'm still going to answer your emails because I do appreciate them and happy to do it. But it occurred to me that it might be just a little bit more efficient for me to talk you through and to answer a lot of the questions that are coming in that are sort of frequently asked. And so what I am here today to do is to talk to you a little bit more about what this is that I'm doing as I run these small groups. Okay, so as you know, I'm a psychotherapist and I have trauma background training, and I also have done a lot of work in group theory. And I really, really enjoy running these groups. The reason why I make them space limited is honestly, well, for a few reasons. Number one is it's really important that you get to know one another, that you feel safe and seen, and that you are cultivating relationships with people that you see every week, and that you're able to come in and feel like you are in a place and in a space where the faces are familiar, where the stories become near and dear to your own heart, and where you feel like you can share your own stories. The other reason why I like to make the groups, I cap them off, is because I also want to get to know you. And I just can't tell you how much I relish the relationships that I am personally cultivating with. So each group has 25 slots, I guess you could say. And I also allow for couples that want to come. If they live under the same roof, they can come under one slot. They don't have to each pay individually if both of them come together. Okay, so something else that I wanted to just walk you through, I'm kind of basically speaking out a frequently asked questions because I've answered so very many emails on this. What does a group look like? So we meet once a week. I throw out various times. As soon as a group fills up, I offer a new time. And once we get going, we'll meet every week at the same time. And basically, it's a combination of a number of different things that I do. So I'm going to just give you an example of some of what you're going to experience if you decide to join a group. A lot of people really want skills. They want to learn how to handle a challenging situation. I'm actually going to walk you through here just in a minute. I'm going to walk you through one of the skills trainings that I just barely did with a couple of my groups. And so basically, sometimes what I'll do is I'll actually help people with specific questions that they want answered on how to deal with a particular situation. Okay, that is sort of what I would consider like a short game kind of training, where we walk through a couple points, we talk about how to integrate it, and sometimes somebody will say, well, what about this situation that I'm working through with my mother-in-law? How would I handle this? Or what about this situation? This is how I'm dealing with it. And so we'll actually integrate the skills that I have taught into real life situations. And I'll kind of just go through and people will share and they'll ask questions and I'll answer a few things as best as I can. I sometimes open it up to the group and people in the group share their own experiences. And we kind of proceed that way and allow it to be sort of an organic kind of conversation. Okay, so that is sort of the skills training portion of the groups that I run. Something else that I like to do is, in my opinion, more of a long game sort of what intervention, I guess you could say, which is I invite people, I bring in a concept that is more about deepening and broadening their understanding of a larger concept that isn't necessarily something that you can go turn around and practice like tomorrow with a relationship, but it is something that I want to help people expand their level of consciousness. I want people to learn how to see with new eyes. I am so profoundly committed to the business of soul growth, of evolving ourselves, of really truly deepening and broadening our relationship with our own divine inner selves. And so I use this group also to do that. And so what I mean by that is, say for example, I will I will come with a thought question, and people in the group, I always encourage to have a journal in hand. It can be, an old fashioned journal, or they can, have their phone at the ready and they can be taking notes on their phone. But I'll ask a question and I will just invite everybody to sort of reflect on this. We might have a short conversation, or I might offer just a little bit of a mini, kind of a master class or something where I offer thoughts, feelings, maybe some ways to deepen their understanding. And then we actually just have a conversation where people talk about their own thoughts and feelings and reflections about this particular concept. The idea here is that they take this information away from our time together, and they really let it let it sit. They let it marinate, and they think and feel and ponder and pray and discuss and journal, and they integrate it into who they are as a human being, which then of course helps them with the skills too. And so I have this long game approach where I'm deepening and working with people and deepening sort of their relationship with themselves and with their own souls. And then I also have the short game approach where I'm helping people with an actual skill set. And then the other thing that I do is I do some individual coaching in the group setting. So we just started this with my first group because we've been together for almost 3 months now. So we've gotten to know each other pretty well, and really it's just a phenomenal group. I just love them to pieces. It's a favorite hour of the week for me. And I'm getting ready to do this with my Tuesday group too, because we are a month behind the Sunday group and we're really clicking too. It's just a phenomenal group of people also. So I couldn't feel more grateful. So in this coaching situation, one person will volunteer, and I will give them basically half of the time, and they will come and we will do an individual coaching session with everybody in the group observing, and they'll be off the screen and they will watch and observe my doing this individual work on the screen with one individual, and then we will spend the latter period of our group together processing, exploring, talking, and basically connecting with and helping the person who has been coached understand what we have learned, how we have grown, and how we are evolving as a product of their being able to share a deeper, more expanded experience of what they're going through in their faith expansion journey. And like I said, because I'm kind of a brand new, this is new to me too. We're all kind of doing this together and learning and growing together. I've just done this one time with one group, and I think I can confidently say it was a phenomenal experience, and all of us really benefited from it, myself included. I learned a lot, and I'm always absolutely astounded by the depth and the breadth and the beauty, not only of the people that I get to coach, but also the surrounding people that watch and witness and love and validate the bravery of those who come forward and are willing to hear and listen to and be together in connection with this sort of individual, intimate coaching experience. So, something else that we do every week is we share wins, which is from week to week, we go about, in the wild, we talk in a group, and then we have to go out and live our lives and navigate the complexities of how we are in connection with or around our relationship with the church. That's why we're all here. And so we come back and we share what we have experienced. This can be a win, can be a conversation that we had. It also can be just an internal experience where we had an aha moment where we are learning and growing to step into our power, to say no, to speak up, or to do or be, or just that we're noticing growth, shift, change, evolution, expansion. And then we share that with each other. And the thing that's beautiful about that is oftentimes when we have a faith expanding experience and we share it, it actually sears it deeper into our nature. It becomes more and more who we are when we're able to actually speak it out loud and make it explicit. And it's also incredibly inspiring for others in the group who are on that same path, but are, not quite there yet, that are wanting inspiration, they're wanting mentorship, they're wanting somebody to help them see how it's done, how someone stepped into something that is otherwise very frightening or uncomfortable or out of their comfort, that's not something that they're used to doing. And when they notice one of their friends or loved ones from the group stepping into their own power, sometimes it becomes a little bit more manageable or easy. Something else that we do is we just share what's going on, how we're feeling, what we're going through. If something happened that week or that day in relationship, I give a little bit of time for people to just talk and talk about what they're feeling, how they're experiencing their world. And the beautiful thing too that I wanted, this is another question I'm answering, is sometimes people are kind of wondering, what's the stance of everybody in the group? Do I have to be active? Is it okay if I'm not going to church right now? Is it okay if I left a while ago? The answer to all that is yes. All I'm interested in is I'm wanting to help people become healed and psychologically healthy in the context of their relationship with the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. The groups do tend to attract a lot of people who are active in the church and who are striving to find a congruent way to be active in the church. And yet at the same time, there are a lot of people who are stepping away or have stepped away, and they're trying to do so in a way that is psychologically, spiritually, and personally congruent for themselves. They're also only trying to navigate how to be in connection with people around them who are in a different place in their faith development journey. And they're wanting to navigate that in a way that is congruent with who they're trying to become as mature human beings, children of God. So we navigate all around that space, and any of those locations are fine. I'm just really interested in helping people find strength, find their internal compass, find freedom, find healing, find growth, and find connection with me, but also with the people, the wonderful people that get to surround us in each of these hourly groups. Okay, so just to give you a quick example of a short game, kind of like, I guess, mini lesson that I would give. This is a skill set that I'm not going to give you all of the points because I just kind of want to give you a taste of what I do. Just actually this week, I offered one of my groups this kind of lesson. They wanted to know how to have a challenging conversation with somebody that where they just don't see eye to eye. Say, for example, say you're not getting along well with your mother because you're going through what she considers a faith crisis, and maybe you're at the point where it's no longer crisis and it's really expansion, or it can be crisis, either one. But it's like, I'm too scared to know how to talk to my mom. So what I did is I thought about that question because it'd come up a few times, and I gave 10 points on how to position oneself and how to think about the idea of approaching, in this case, the group member's mother. So I'll just offer 3 points that of the 10 that I gave. And then I gave the 10 points, and then we actually, as a group, spent about 40 minutes talking about which ones resonated the most with us. Some people who were realizing something for the first time, how they're going to integrate it, how they already have integrated it, and then what they're going to be doing to practice. Okay, so the 3 points that I will give is point number 1. Well, this isn't exactly point number 1, but like I said, I'm just sort of grab bagging 3 of the 10 points. I talked about being very clear on what you want to accomplish from the conversation. And the way I sort of broadened that out is to, when we're going into a challenging conversation, really have clarity about what it is that we care most about as a product of speaking to this person about this thing. That will help us from allowing the conversation to become derailed. It'll help us to stay grounded, to sort of speak into our own truth, to stay solid and calm. And it will also help us to recognize if and when we are sort of forgetting, or it'll help us if the other party is sort of starting to throw in some of their own shenanigans and trying to derail the conversation, that we can remember what it is we want most, and we can sort of bring the conversation back to where it began. Point number 2 that I talked about is to have an awareness before or as we're preparing for this challenging conversation, have an awareness of the stages of development that people are in. And if you're familiar with my content on this, it's back in episode number 33, Stages of Faith Development. And I have benefited myself from this point. That's why I put it in my list here that I created, because it's really helpful for me when I just feel like, boy, we're not going to get anywhere, to just have charity and compassion and recognize that they're in a different place. And I can ask curious questions. I can invite dialogue. I can share with love how I feel and that I feel differently, but that's okay. But I can also have this awareness that maybe they're just not quite ready yet. for what, I can't necessarily bridge the gap of where they are to where I am just by my sort of talking at them. Nobody is ever convinced to be somewhere where psychologically and spiritually they just aren't quite, they aren't there yet. It's kind of like imagining, an infant trying to teach an infant how to walk. Well, they need to go through all sorts of other developmental things before they're able to even begin to learn how to walk. And so just to have that awareness, and that kind of helps us stay centered and not get too discouraged. And then the point number 3 that I'll bring up as one of the 10 points that I offered to my group this week in having challenging conversations is I shared a skill set that I learned from a book called Crucial Conversations. And they talk about the skill set called using contrasting language. And what that means is we enter into the conversation having a bit of an awareness of the way we may be misunderstood. And so we explicitly state in these conversations in what ways we imagine they're not getting us. So for example, we can say something like this: I'm not meaning to offend you by saying that I don't believe this way. I'm not trying to show disrespect. What I am trying to do is I'm trying to show you my own growth experience. So do you see in the contrasting language, what we're doing is we're basically saying, I know this is probably what you're picking up from how I'm expressing myself, but that's not what I mean. I don't mean this thing that's hurtful. I do mean this thing that is a speaking into my truth. And so to offer contrasting language, it actually offers clarity where we can anticipate where others will not get us or not see eye to eye with us. But we can be very, very clear on what we're not trying to do, which will derail us. But what we are trying to do is speak our truth, be authentic, be congruent, and that we're trying to actually strengthen our relationship with this person that we care about. If we weren't trying to strengthen the relationship, we wouldn't even be having the conversation. And so be very specific that this is what I want most, and this is what I don't want you to think, and this is what I do want you to think. Okay, so those are just 3 quick examples of sort of short gain activities that I work on with people in the groups. Okay, now I'm going to move over to sort of more of an idea or an example of the soul work that I do, the long game stuff, the personal transformation stuff. I got some feedback from one of the group members that this really, really hit home and was something that had really impacted them. So what we did is I did a little, we had a conversation in one of the groups about this concept of death and of birth, death, and resurrection. And we talked about how this is nested in, of course, our theology of Jesus Christ and his atonement. But I also talked about how life and how growth and how our faith journeys can also be experienced as an ongoing experience of birth, death, and resurrection. And so I kind of broadened and deepened that point with the group. And then I had everybody pause, and I gave some examples of my own, of course. And then I had everybody pause and journal for 3 or 4 minutes. And then we did, for the rest of the time together, we actually shared what our own personal birth, death, and resurrection experiences. And just to give you a couple of examples, or maybe just one example, is one of the group members shared the death specifically of the perfect family, and how she had in her mind, of course, as many of us have been sort of indoctrinated into our minds of you do all of these things and your children will become all of these things. And so her death experience was the death of this idea. And there was a lot of grief in this death. And then she talked about the resurrection experience is as her faith expansion journey has been moving along at its own pace, she has come to realize the beauty of who her children actually are becoming and have become and continue to become. Her resurrection moment was a paradigm shift from the way a child is supposed to look to the way these children are becoming, because they are becoming beautifully and deeply themselves. And so we talked about this. This is one person's example of the birth, the birth being the story of what a child is supposed to be, then the death, that they didn't become that way, and the resurrection, which was their paradigm shift and what they've learned and how they've grown to love their children even more deeply by letting go of the paradigm through its death. And so everybody kind of journaled about that. We had several talk about it, and then they took it away from the group and they continued to think and ponder and process this. One last thing before I close is that we have as we build these relationships in these group settings, everybody wants, or most people want to stay in collaboration. They still want to keep talking. They still want to keep processing. And so we have a closed Facebook group for every single one of my small groups. that is rather active. And what we've really come to realize is even more active than the written word is everybody in each group. We start a Marco Polo group. And boy, those are on fire all of the time. There are people talking, sharing, loving on each other, supporting each other, and asking questions, having conversations about whatever it is that they're going through in their faith expansion journey. It's such a beautiful thing that we're connecting all of these people from really all over the world. And everybody feels in, well, I don't want to say everybody because I don't want to make assumptions, but it feels in some ways from my point of view that people have found a community where they don't feel alone, where it's just, it's just a button click away that they can ask some questions, get some answers, see a friendly face, and not feel like they're so alone. Okay, so if this is something that interests you, I hope I've answered some of your questions in a more efficient way than emailing these one by one. And I would love to have you in one of these space limited groups. I'm dropping this today because there are 2 groups starting this week. One of them is on Wednesday. Well, it's on Wednesday at 7 p.m. Central. I am fairly certain that it's full, but if you are interested, I would be interested in knowing if you are interested in a PM group. I know that's a very popular time. If there is enough interest, I would be possibly interested in starting a second group on Wednesday evening. So please let me know if this is something that does interest you. Even if we can't get you into this one, I would kind of like to know if there are enough to start a second group on Wednesday evenings. The second group that is starting this week is on Thursday mornings at 9 a.m. Central Standard Time. I did that intentionally at that time so that the folks on Mountain Time and on the West Coast can maybe get up and start their day that way. And so anyways, there are a few spaces left in that group. So if you are interested in getting into that Thursday morning, 9 a.m. Central Standard Time, please let me know ASAP at info@valeriehamaker.com or at Latter Day Struggles Podcast on Instagram. Also, my Sunday group, we renew every single quarter. And so if anybody is interested in joining that Sunday group, there may be a few extra spots open for that Sunday 5 p.m. Central Standard Time. I already have a couple people on a wait list there. So if you're interested in that, let me know and jump on that wait list. I know that's also a very popular time. And then last but not least is once we hit January, I'm going to also be starting, and I have lists going of people interested in a noon on Monday Central Standard Time and a Thursday at noon Central Standard Time. So I know that's kind of confusing, but the good news is you have this on audio, so you can actually just rewind this and listen to it again. All right, my friends, it is good to be with you. Hopefully that answers a lot of your questions. Oh, wait. I do have one more thing I wanted to say. I am going to be starting, because these groups have grown so rapidly, and honestly, just because I'm having such a great time getting to know so many of you, I'm going to be starting to do a Facebook group that is inclusive of anyone who is in any of my groups. And I will be doing Facebook Live question and answer sessions periodically, probably bi-weekly. And so if you're in any of my groups, actively in any of my groups, you will be invited to any of those. And then you'll not only get to see your own group members, but you'll get to see everybody else who is a part of a different group. And I will be live with you and answering a lot of your collective questions that I'm hearing come up over and over again. And that'll start probably in the next couple of months. So that's another little something for you to think about if you're interested in becoming a part of this beautiful little community. It's so good to be with so many of you. And if you're deriving the benefit that works for you by just listening to this podcast, I love that too. I'm completely happy to be hopefully a resource in your growth and development journey. I can't tell you how rewarding it is to feel the call to do this. I feel like the best and most important calls come not from another individual, but come from something that arises deep from within us. And we are doing what we feel we are here to do. And right now, I feel like I'm here working with and growing with you. And so it is an honor and a privilege to be on this podcast with you and to be getting to know some of you. So if you're willing to write a rating and a review on Spotify and iTunes, it's helping a lot spread the word. And we're becoming a larger family. I couldn't be more grateful for those of you who are listening and going about in your world and making a difference. I see it, I feel it, I hear about it, and I am deeply impacted by you. And so I'm really grateful for the interactions that we have, whether it be through the group or just through social media or an email. It's very, very meaningful for me and gives me the strength and the courage to keep doing this in the face of some that would rather I not. So I'm here for you, and I am grateful for each of you. We'll see you next time. Take care. Bye-bye.